Good morning and welcome to our Wellness Wednesday. This is where we encourage you to be well, get well, and stay well. Your well-being is a factor in everything that you do. So, how are you? We're here with you today on this Wednesday Wellness, and we are so happy that you are here with us. Wednesday Wellness, all about your wellness. Find us on any favorite podcast listening platforms. We are there. It's Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. I'm thankful for the last few days we have had warm weather. Imagine that on Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about seeing your worth. Expecting yourself to see your own worth. We're going to be talking about it as well as doing a personality test to see how you see yourself. And we're hoping that this will bring you much needed encouragement. We are here for you. And seeing your worth. If you don't see it, how can you expect others to see it? We're going to be talking about that, in that we want you to motivate yourself, protecting yourself, and providing for yourselves. I'm going to tell you, it takes a lot of research, and I'm so thankful for the material of the internet research. Because there's a lot of information, but the correct information is one that I want to have you maintain. So how do you see yourself? Especially when you are burnt out. Does anyone ever get burnt out? Anybody? I know I do. And when I'm feeling burnt out, what can I do for the burnt out feelings? Because you're worth it. You are so worth feeling better than you have been feeling. You know, most of us burnt out, but yet, what are we doing for those burnt out feelings? You know, for some it might be to take a warm bath, shower, or others maybe just to relax and listen to music, whatever it is that you're doing. Are you feeding into yourself self-compassion? Good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
What are you thankful for this morning?
I'm thankful for starting my day with peace, having time to have peace and quiet this morning.
Love it, love it, love it. I want to say thank you so much for your getting into our YouTube. ladies and gentlemen, we are on YouTube now. And I want to thank my co-host Trish, all the way from South Carolina. And I am all the way from the West Coast, Los Angeles. And the work that has been put into our YouTube channel, excellent job. Thank you so much. So, seeing your work, how has that been for many of you? To see your worth, how do we define that? Because we're going to be taking a small reflection test. And I thought this was a really good idea to look at our wellness, our Wednesday wellness. So your self-worth is important. I would like for everyone to say that one time. Your self-worth is important. Self-worth. We see a lot of quotes with self-worth, but what does that really mean? Being good enough. There once was a time where I felt like I wasn't good enough to be loved. That was so many moons ago, but to leave that space and be in the space that I am now, I totally look at it differently. And it's just not something that you do overnight. I want you one time to say, you are worthy of love. You are worth love. Loving yourself and loving others. We think about being consistent with how we feel. Because, see, I could have you say that a dozen times and you walk away and you don't feel worthy of love. But now, how many times would you convince your friends or someone that you loved that they are worthy of love? One time? And that be enough? Twice? 10 times? Or even more? See, you're not going to stop until you want your loved one to feel better. So I want you to understand your worth. Because you see, I had to understand mine, and now I'm in the space of understanding my self-worth modestly to look at that I am worthy of. We talked about feeling burnt out and acknowledging burnout. How many times have we all felt burnt out in any given situation? Work, there's so much to do in one day and not enough time to do what's in a day. Come a little closer. We struggle in our 1 day period to get done things that we need to do in the 1 day. And there's not enough time. But here you are. You are trying to struggle with yourself. And it is a fight. It is a battle. Why? What aren't you seeing in yourself that prevents you from owning your right to be loved and cared for? See, that's the key question. I said about burnout just earlier about how acknowledging it is one thing, but to totally do nothing about it is a whole other thing. So we have to take action. If you're tired, you get rest. Why aren't you worthy of that? If you are needing to express something in any given relationship, family, friends, aren't you worth that? To be able to express it without feeling like someone's going to reject you? Someone isn't going to love you anymore because you said this, you said what you needed to say. And why is that even a thing? See, our self-worth we put online. And I'm not talking about self-worth on social media. I'm talking about on our mental lines, on our emotional lines. You are worthy, and only you can get to realize that you are the only one that can do something about it. Now, I want you to think about how situations have happened in your life. I want you to recall a situation that has met some difficulty in your life, and everybody's is going to be different. Now, you may be experiencing some things in the family, at your workplace, but I want you to think about that situation right now, whatever it is, because I guarantee you, if I ask you what the situation was, you're going to have a different situation than I. You will. But now, during this difficult situation, I want you to provide a space, whether you're writing today or you're needing some mental or emotional space to think about it. We're going to write down the word action. What are you going to put for that difficult situation? Because there's a lot of I don't knows out there. And when you come to this program, when I work with you individually or as a group, I remove the word I don't know. And you'd be surprised how it works. You start removing that language from yourself, that verbiage. Because when we start talking it out, you do know. Just have to want to well yourself and identifying what's going on. So right now, I want you to think about action. If you're in a difficult situation, or the last time you were in a difficult situation, or when you get in a difficult situation, I want to ask you the first question. What is one thing that you can do to take care of your own emotional needs? Because if you're waiting for others to do it, you may be waiting a very long time. Good morning to those who are out there. Good morning. What is the one thing you can do to take care of your emotional need in a difficult situation? The only thing that you should be working with right now is action, because we know we all have situations. Aren't you worthy to do something about your emotional need in a difficult situation? Because you're going to give advice to your friends, maybe even your neighbor, maybe even a stranger that you don't even know. But what advice would you give to yourself about taking care of your emotional needs? I want you to say, I am worth it. I am worth it. One time. What are you going to do about your emotional need? Because some of us realize we need to do something, but we don't pride ourselves on valuing how we feel. And I know there's a lot of you out there that say, I don't value myself because no one ever valued me. I've had some people say that. No one ever valued me, is what people have said. But what do you say in your space of action? How are you going to take care of your emotional needs? Some of you are going to be triggered and some of you are going to have a difficult time. But this is how we work on ourselves, guys. By the way, if you want to work with me at any time, you can always set up a one-on-one with me. 661-503-8993 is our direct connect. It is not a personal number. It is Vibe Talk Direct Connect. And we use that as well for our Saturday dedication line. Shoot me a text, or if there is any part of this program that you didn't understand, I'm willing to take the time with you. So now that part is comfort. See, because we rush to comfort other people. How many of us have rushed to comfort other people and people we didn't know? Anybody? I have.
I have.
Yeah. But how many of us don't rush to help ourselves? How many of us hesitate to comfort ourselves?
I do.
I do. See, what we need to start saying, aren't I worth it? And then immediately after that, I'm going to speak comfort into myself because why? I'm worth it. One time. Soothing ourselves. When a baby cries, we know the natural thing to do is to soothe that baby. How many of you have ever done that? Stop the baby from crying.
I have.
Yeah, we've all experienced that. You dads out there, I'm talking to you too. I'm going to give you credit because I know that you've done it. You've picked up your baby. You picked up a baby to soothe it. Now we're going to soothe ourselves because why? That's part of our well-being. So now I'm going to talk to you again. I'm talking to you. What is one thing that you can do to make yourself feel physically calmer and more at ease when you're facing life's challenge? All challenges are different. What is the one thing that you can do to make yourself feel physically calmer and more at ease? I like music. Thank you so much for that. And good morning, Maddie. Good morning. And I want to tell you guys that we are on certain networks, Vibe Talk, Facing the Lion. Facing the Lion, known by our name as well. Thank you so much. So I like music, so I'll turn to music, and I miss really going to walking on the beach. When my brother died, I did a lot of walks on the beach to collect my thoughts and to deal with what was then the beginning stages of grief. How do you all make yourself feel physically calmer? What do you do? Trish, Maddie, What do you do?
I listen to music, and sometimes I write in my journal to myself. I write my feelings and emotions in like a short story and how the scenario is, so I can see myself in the scenario and actually feel what I'm feeling.
I love it. And by the way, if you want to hear my co-host music, Trish, put your information down, and can you repeat it for those who aren't hearing? You'll hear how soothing this music is. Trish, can you tell them, please?
Yes, you can find my music on SoundCloud and YouTube under Queen Faya, QU33NFIY4, Queen Faya. It's inspiring and positive music.
And she's going to put it on our Facebook. We're live, by the way, on Facebook. If you haven't already found out about us, we're live, Trisha and I, on Facebook right now. Um, Feel comfortable. Wherever you're listening is fine, but we want you to support our pages and check out our YouTube page. We're going to be right back as we think about being worthy and talking about worthiness. We're going to come right back. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. You want to listen to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast? Just ask Alexa and Siri for Vibe Talk Facing the Lion's latest podcast. We're back, and we're talking about being worthy. I want you guys, now that you are thinking about, thank you for those hearts, Maddie. Thank you for those hearts. We appreciate that. And we want you to talk about, we want you to feel like you would when you are comforting your best friend. Because you're worthy to put yourself on that list in need of comfort. Sometimes we feel ashamed, we feel embarrassed, we feel helpless when we don't see ourselves worthy. We're afraid. But I want you all to think about yourself as your best friend. I know that's a stretch for so many people, but I'd like you this day to start working on what you love about yourself, and just wait till we get into this discussion further. Now, we've talked about two important things: comforting yourself and soothing yourself. What you do to take the stress off of you, and when you feel stress, how do you calm down? How do you calm down? And Maddie, I can see you, so if you want to write, you just continue to write, okay? This is also an interactive validation, feeling like they hear me, they see me, I'm being seen, I'm being heard. What is one thing that you can say to yourself to validate your feeling? Now, I want you to give a feeling, and then I want you to say why you feel that way. Like if I said happiness, I'm happy because I'm doing something I love to do, and that's Vibe Talk. See, aren't you worth that? To have your feelings validating or validated. Let's look at validation, because in order to understand what something is, we've got to understand its meaning. So if you want to be heard and want, yes, if you want to be seen or heard, and what it means is to uh, acknowledge when you're validating something, you are confirming. See, I just confirmed that I'm happy. What statement can you confirm, Trish, and my audience members? And don't forget to tell us where you're from, please. What can you validate?
I can validate that I feel relieved because I'm taking time to reflect on my emotions.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. You are worth it. Validation is the feeling of having your own worth. Your own worth. You know, some people say, well, don't I ever get credit? Why does someone never say I did good? Start by telling yourself, because you're worthy, aren't you? See, we will tell our friends. So what is one thing that you could say to yourself to validate yourself? Here's another word. I am determined. I am strong. No, nobody has to validate that, because that is something that I own. I know that about myself. You see how the self-worthiness works? Yeah. How many of you think that you are compassionate? You're a compassionate person. You say, well, I listen. I hear you. That's another thing too. When you are validating someone, whether they're your kids, teachers validating students, couples validating each other, try using these words. I have received you and I understood. We must validate our own self before we see it to validate other people. Yeah, sometimes we've got to get on the ground level of understanding that maybe someone is not validating you because maybe they were never validated. How many of you have ever thought about that? Get to know the story behind the person. So now we're going to talk about what was I going to say? Yes, validating. We talked about that. Now we're going to talk about compassion. You know, we feel compassion for other people. You see a sick animal, you feel compassion. You see a homeless person that looks disheveled, hungry, you feel compassion. You see a child hungry, you feel compassion. Hold on. You feel compassion. So why not feel compassion about yourself? You are worthy. Now, my other experience that I want to ask you is about your experience. When was the last time you showed compassion? Good morning. And tell us where you're from, please, and thank you. Good morning. Saying hello to everyone out there in my audience. Thank you for joining Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. And we are on YouTube. Kentucky. Hi there. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about when you start seeing your worthiness. So I want to give you a minute to think about that. Thank you for joining us. If you want to participate in our conversation, go ahead. I can see you and I'm going to acknowledge you. And please go to our Facebook page, click like if you do. That way you'll know when I'm on. I am Nisi, your professional life coach and wellness. So now let's talk about for a moment your being able to be compassionate. What is the experience of the last time you showed compassion? Oh boy. Mine truly is always with people. You hear their stories and your heart just goes out. You want to do something, right? What about you, Trish? Compassion. And those who are listening in the audience, you can participate too.
I experience compassion when I'm with my family, when I talk to them and try to hear their sides of the story when they're having an argument or bickering. And when my best friend calls me and says he needs to talk, I always listen to what he has to say.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? Um, our audience member from Kentucky says they have to be compassionate to their clients. And yes, compassion. Yes. Thank you so much for that. Um, compassion. You feel something when you're confronted with other people suffering. You feel motivated to relieve what that person is feeling. Compassion. When you see another person suffer, you feel motivated to relieve the suffering. Everybody felt that? Everybody felt that in their life one time, two times? If you have felt that in your life, put your electronic hand up or say, I have. I
I
have.
have.
Yeah. Now, I want you to turn it on to yourself. What are you compassionate about? See how these questions are changing? You see how these questions, what are you compassionate about? What do you feel when you are confronted with your own suffering? What are you motivated to do about your own suffering? Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate all the hearts, guys. What is more is that we appreciate if you go and support our Facebook and Instagram pages. And on Saturday nights, you get a different kind of Vibe Talk. Vibe Talk After Dark is all music, dedication, and what is on your mind. How's that for us? Let's join me Saturday night live on Instagram and Facebook. It's After Dark. wherever you are. We're there. Go check them out. Trisha so nicely laid down everything for us, and I know she's sick of me because she has done the work for you guys to find us. Go listen to our Vibe Talk After Dark on YouTube. So, what is the one thing that you are compassionate about when it comes to yourself? What is it? When I'm tired, I'm compassionate about taking a day off. How about you guys? Trish, is there anything that you're compassionate about, and to our audience as well?
Yes. When I make music and I feel like no one's listening, I show myself compassion and I listen to myself to validate myself and tell myself, it doesn't matter if people are not listening because you did the work and you made that. That song was great.
Yeah, yeah. Something we all have to work through. It's just like with Vibe Talk. If we were to come on here and no one was to listen to us, thank you so much, Maddie. Thank you. If we were to come here and nobody were to listen, I'm proud of the work. I'm proud of being able to have a client, 2 clients. I'm happy because that means that my compassion has been to help somebody in their suffering. Now, the other part of our worthiness, because you are worthy, say that one time, is protecting ourselves. Some people don't know how to stand up for themselves. How many of you know people, if not yourselves, that won't stand up for themselves?
I do.
Anybody like that?
I do.
Yeah? And what's that like for you to see that?
Because I'm referring to myself. It's
I
like,
love that's honesty.
yeah, when I see myself like that, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, I know you got strength. I tell myself I know I'm strong enough to stand up for myself, but I don't. I shy away, I get quiet, and I dismiss what I actually feel in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. See, when I see someone who doesn't stand up for themselves in my social world, it's like, boy, you need to stand up for yourself. But in my professional world, I'm always helping them to look for the answer. Why? Because I want to let you in on something. Come a little closer. There's always a reason why someone does not stand up for themselves. And some of those reasons include this: they don't feel worthy. One time, I am worthy. Say that one time today. So, to protect yourself, what is one thing that you can do to stop others that are hurting you? Stopping the harm that you are inflicting on yourself. I don't want these to be hard-pressed questions, but I do want them to motivate you to be well, get well, and stay well. What is the one thing that you can do to stop others that may be hurting you? Or stop the harm that you're inflicting on yourself? Go ahead, Trish.
I was gonna say I can set boundaries.
Setting boundaries. Yeah. See, when you think about any hurt that you have been through, even though it's happened, it still affects you. And I want to acknowledge that. That's so important. You are still worthy to be well and not feel hurt or not feel injured. Setting boundaries. I think that's a safety thing with me too. Setting boundaries. But if you don't know that it's coming, how do you see it? You want to treat others the way that you are treated. Now, let's reverse that. Wanting to treat others the way you are treated. Now, let's switch sides and remember what I just said. You know, the thing about treating others the way you want to be treated. Well, sometimes others learn to treat others by how they were treated. Does everyone get that? Anybody out there get that?
I do.
Yeah, what do I mean by that?
Um, you mean that some people, like when I treat somebody how I want to be treated, I mean well, but some people might have not learned how to treat other people
Right.
well, so they treat them like badly. But it's not intentional. They think it's right because it's how they were taught and it's what they learned.
Bullseye. Everyone get that? Everyone get that? See, because we learn by watching others. If you were born from someone who may have had abusive traits, I'm saying may, and that's all that they knew, well, why would you expect them to have anything better when they haven't been taught better? But now, if you are in a relationship that is harmful or that inflicts pain, ask yourself, are you worth more than that? Because you see, what we're talking about is the hurtful part. You know, it doesn't even have to be a punch, a hit, a slap. It can come in verbiage, the way you are speaking to someone. Everyone get that? Yeah. The way you're speaking to someone. Aren't you worth more? Aren't you valuable to be spoken well onto, well into, well about? See, if nobody is speaking well to you, I want you to start today by saying, I am worth it one time. See, protecting yourself, standing up for yourself. You know, there's a lot of children in the world today that don't know how to stand up for themselves. I'm going to say that one more time in case you didn't hear me the first time. There are a lot of children in the world today that don't know how to stand up for themselves. So, what does that imply? That perhaps they're being bullied? Perhaps they feel that nobody validates them or nobody cares enough about them to say, hey, how was your day at school? And you know what happens to those children who don't feel worthy to tell anybody or to feel like that they deserve to be bullied? They turn on themselves. Now, I want you to think about this. A young child, very young mind, very inexperienced, who actually is bullied, has never told anyone, and decides that they want to put a stop to it. See, they think that that's protecting themselves. But is it really? You be the person to think about that. See, we want you to feel worthy enough. See, we understand that all sorts of people come to Vibe Talk. All sorts of people I've talked to in my day-to-day living that have suffered as a child, that are suffering as a child. And no one has ever said, you're worth more. Become the voice that you have never heard from someone else in protecting yourself. And that's the question. What is one thing that you can do to stop others? Setting boundaries. If you don't know what's coming, you need to be able to listen. And if we have truly young ones, we need to help them by being the voice for them. When we think about providing, aren't you worth it? How many of us have a warm home to live in? Anybody?
I do.
Yeah, a roof over your head, providing. So we understand that sense of being able to provide. I will be right back. I will be right back. Stay tuned as we talk about your being worthy. Be right back. Podcast. Come set your favorite streaming platforms. Feel free to be interactive and tell us your stories. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, YouTube, and so much more. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Go give it a shot. Vibe Talk After Dark is our new radio show. Join me as we dedicate songs, listen to music, and have inspirational conversation. Vibe Talk After Dark, Saturdays, right here, and Instagram. We're back. We're talking about providing. What is one thing that you can do to give yourself what you need? What is one thing that you can do to give yourself what you need? My parents always taught me to work hard. And in order to provide the things that I need, I realize the value of work. Why? Because I'm worth it. What is one thing that you can do, Trish, to give yourself what you need?
One thing I can do is get more knowledge and research the things that I don't know so I can be more aware of what I'm doing.
Hey, thank you for that. So providing. Everybody needs something. We live in a world where everybody needs something, and sometimes we say, oh, they're so needy. But really, what is a needy person missing? Because we couldn't call them needy if they didn't always need. But do we get behind the stories? See, that's part of my job. I get behind the story to understand myself first so that I can understand another. But first, wanting to understand myself. What is something in life? Do we feel that we have all that life can offer? Or are we unsatisfied? Because when we think about provision, some of us miss the point. I remember seeing something around the holiday time and I laughed at it because, that's a time where many people who celebrate that's gift giving. So the meme was, my gift to you was the refrigerator had a red bow on it. You think about provision. And the stove had a red bow on it. And then you saw these different things. Well, to any thinking person looking at that, it taught you to be grateful because, there are hardworking parents out there. And be glad that you have what you have. You got what you got. A home to live in, a bed to sleep in, a stove to cook on. Because I'll tell you one thing. If you were to go over in other countries that didn't have access to those things, you would think twice about what you have versus what you don't have. Be always grateful for provision, working hard and providing. Provision is such a beautiful thing when you think about it. What can you do to provide for yourself? You know, uh, I speak to a lot of women about learning independency. And how do I mean that? So that we're not twisting anything here. I mean that by women who have come out of relationships, they've had to rely on their other person that has been the breadwinner, so to speak. And I try to encourage a lot of women that I see like this because a lot of women don't leave because their abuser or the person that is not the provider, because that's neglect too when you're not providing. Okay? I just want to put that there. Now, what happens is they become independent, and some people will use that as a manipulative tool. And that's why I encourage women and men, so I don't want to leave the men out, to become your person. Always know how to support yourself. Aren't you worth it? One time. Motivation is something that we talk about. What motivates you? What makes you move? What makes you respond? Is it kindness? Is it support? Is it understanding? Is it compassion? Because we thrive. When we are motivating something, someone, we are thriving. But then there are some of us who are extremely critical of our own selves, of our own beings. How do you fit in that category? Trish, what do you think?
I can relate to that a lot because sometimes I can be my best support and sometimes I can be my worst critic, and that comes into my overthinking. I overthink because of that, and I'm trying to work on my being my worst critic because I know that I'm capable. Referring to my music, I know that I'm capable of growing in my craft and doing what I think I can push myself into doing in a healthy way. But sometimes I judge myself a little too hard, and it stops me from being or pursuing my greatness.
Love that. Thank you. Critical. Being critical of yourself. Does that mean that you should never critique yourself? No, that's not what that means. That means that you're not looking at yourself through a defective mirror. We talk about mirrors in a vibe talk. When clients work with me, I make them do, or not make them, that's a harsh word, but help them to do the mirror talk. And if you want to know what that is, get with me and we'll go through that. It's not as easy as you think, but if I were to have you look in a defective mirror, does that mean that you could see clearly? Of course not. So when you're looking at your own self, it means to see yourself in a valuable and not valueless mirror. How you're seeing yourself. Because some of us are harsh on others while being harsh on ourselves. Because I too can be my best friend or my worst enemy. You know, it hurts me when I see children that are very critical of themselves. I don't know if you guys have ever saw that. Have you ever experienced that in children? Anybody? Because for those who are listening, you might be the child that is the grown child now, and when you were younger, you were criticized for everything. Some of you couldn't make mistakes because how dare you make a mistake? But I want to tell you something. You can make mistakes. It's okay. You've lived through them. You've survived them. But being your own critic can sometimes turn into your worst enemy. Critiquing yourself in a balanced way is a healthy thing. You know, Trish talked about music. I talk about photography because I do photography. And if I don't like the way something is done, I might have a do-over. But many of you haven't had the opportunities to do overs like we do in art and music. And so that is the way that you've been taught to be self-critical. Self-critical can work out for your detriment. It can be very destructive. May it not be that. But rather, seeing yourself in a clear mirror so that you're able to see who you really are. That's the point of the mirror talk. One last thing, and we're going to tie it up right after this. We now have a YouTube channel. Go check us out. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion Podcast YouTube channel. Click the button and subscribe. We're back. How do we learn self-worth? Being worthy, getting up, standing up, being the part of I am worthy team. We talked about the mirror, being able to see yourself clearly. But visionary boards are something that, thank you, Brandon, and good morning. Where are you listening in from, Brandon? We are talking about seeing your worth. If you guys have missed this podcast, wherever you're listening, because my co-host and I were on Facebook, if you've missed it, it's being recorded, and that's how it gets to you streamed. So go check us out, and we are on Facebook. Visionary boards. How many of you have put up a board and you've got sticky notes on it? Anybody ever done that?
Yes, I've done that before.
Yeah. A visionary board is all about the things that you can see yourself doing. Your mental, your emotional, and your physical health, your well-being. You can look on the board and you can put up something. We, during, what was it, the first year, we had what was called a U-jar. And in that U-jar was going to be, or is, a reminder of who we are. If we were to pass away, we have that U-jar that is going to explain to a person who we are. Whether we put a good note in for ourselves, whether we put in something that's a collectible. Trish, do you still have yours?
No, I have to make a new one.
That's okay, because we'll have to. We always do. I still have mine, but that was an assignment that we did. But now we all can make vision boards. You know, the vision boards are so easy. You can even make one out of a cardboard box, and you can paint on it. You can stick up a picture of your favorite memory. Why are you doing that vision board? Because it helps you see. It helps you to build a vision that you can look at by image to see yourself. You can put words on that vision board. And I would encourage each and every person to listen. Why? Because you're worthy. I am worthy. One more time. We'll be right back with Precious Treasures.
Feel free to be interactive and tell us your stories. iHeartRadio, Apple Music, YouTube, Epic, so much more. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Go give it a shot.
We're back, and thank you for joining the Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. See us stream anywhere you're listening to your favorite podcast. Trish, we're going to turn it over to you for Trish's treasure.
This topic was hard for me because it actually made me think about my childhood, and I was bullied during my childhood, but during this process, I was trying to find my worth. And my parents, they've told me when I was born, because I was born with the birth defect, the cleft lip and the cleft palate, and the doctor said, like, that's unique. People don't usually have both of those. Like, she had both of them, and they said that I wasn't going to survive. And I am here 22 years later. But in those 22 years, I have had the struggle of finding my value, my personal value. And being bullied, it made me question, like, if my parents said I'm a miracle, and why do people treat me like this? If I'm such a miracle, why do people treat me this way? Why do they treat me like I shouldn't exist? And I started to have those thoughts that I shouldn't exist. And I even wrote in an old journal I had when I turned 21 that I wasn't going to be here anymore. And I decided when I turned 18 that after I got out of a relationship, I decided to actually discover myself and who I was. And I didn't know where to start. Of discovering if I'm worth it or if I'm valuable. And so I remember praying. I was praying and I asked God, like, to show me, like, how do I know that I'm worth it? That you love me and I should love me. And Vibe Talk popped up on Spoons because I used to do lives. I used to do music lives, and I saw Vibe Talk, and I was like, let me take a look. And so I listened to it, and I kept coming because something in me said, "This is where you need to be. This is a place where you're gonna find your worth, discover your worth." And the more that I stayed with Vibe Talk, I did not know that I was going to be the co-host. I did not know that. But the more I stayed with Vibe Talk, I realized that if you want your own validation, it starts with you. Like, nobody's going to do your work for you. You got to do it yourself. And I was up for the challenge, and I did it. I did the work. I'm still struggling today with reminding myself that I am worth it, but I know that I am. I know that I am worth it, and I don't regret that I was bullied, because it made me realize that I have my own mind, and what other people say about me doesn't define that's who I am. I know my truth and who I am. So know your worth, and finding it is not easy, but you are worth it. You have to realize it. The person that wakes up in the morning and the person you see in the mirror, it starts with you to realize your worth.
That is truly lion power. Thank you for that. For those of you who are listening, if you want to hear this podcast in its entirety, it is up for you to hear. YouTube channel always has it. This will go on YouTube, our channel. Subscribe to that channel. Right now we have 13, and we know there's so many more of you listening. So if you listen to the reels, please go on over and check out the YouTube channels. We thank you. And wow, this was a very powerful podcast. on this Wednesday Wellness. In our last question of the day, let's not forget, what did you learn or discover about yourself during this Wednesday Wellness Seeing Your Worth podcast? And how did it make you feel? I'm going to start with me. I felt very invigorated because I knew that this would make a lot of people think. And I want to say, especially for you that are underestimating your value, your worth, because I've been there. I've been there. And I'll tell you what, nobody, and Trish said that, yes, can do your work for you. So I'm talking to anybody that's in an abusive relationship, men, women, children. Know your worth. Families, know your worth. Every day there's a challenge to be had. Why? Because you own your own power. In your body is housed your empowerment. I want you to know your worth because you are worthy. Powerful. Trish, what did you learn or discover about yourself during this podcast? And how did it make you feel?
I discovered this podcast that I've always discovered this, but today it's confirmed that this journey that I took, I decided to put my faith in. It was not in vain. It actually meant something, and it did me well. My feelings in this podcast today, I felt very triggered, but I think that is a good thing because usually I don't like talking about that, but it's good to talk about it because there are people that went through what I went through, and they need to hear that there is a brighter side to the story.
Knowing your worth. Thank you so much. For anybody that's out there, reach out to this podcast. We're making it available. We're not just here to just ramble on, but we're doing this so that you can reach out even when we're not here. Thank you for putting that suicide prevention up, 988. We want to thank all of you. Gio, good morning. In case you've missed this podcast, you're going to see it streamed. Trisha's doing so well with streaming these. She's really on top of it. So you will get it just after we get off air. Look for it sometime today so that you can sit with yourself. I want you to do one thing this Wednesday Wellness before I forget. Go out and get yourself a favorite fragranced candle. Don't burn the house down or anything, please, because I don't want whomever you live with to say Vibe Talk had my whole home burned down. But I want you to keep it in a private area where you do your most thinking at. And when you want to have some reflection time about your worthiness, I want you to light that candle and get a favorite scent. If you don't like scented candle, they have candles that are calmness. You can get those kind of candles. But that's the assignment. And let me know what you got. I want to thank my amazing co-host, Trish. Thank you so much. Your input, your Trish's Treasures. Go look for that. Trish, you can put that in as well. Trish's Treasures is all about getting to know Trish. And we'll see you back here the next next time. Thank you all for being here, our guests. You're always able to connect with us. That's why we want you to get to know us, because when we come on air, you're able to be right on air with us. You can call in, you can leave text, voicemail. We see your messages, and we always want to acknowledge you. Thank you for your lion courage to be here with both Trish and myself today. Have a good day. I wish you wellness. Get well, stay well, and be well. Until next time, Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. Good day, everyone.
Because I don't want you just to make a resolution. I want you to think about I was really by the moves and then I got the vibe in it. I'm really to the sun of it. I'm really looking proud of it. Yes, really got the vibe in it. It's the sun with it. I'm really looking proud of it. If I see I'm telling you, I get the vibe of it. Yeah, I get the vibe of it. Yeah.